Okay, so I heard from some of you that you could not wait to get to today's history lesson because you obeyed and you didn't read ahead, because don't read ahead, because then that makes it just not as much fun. I want you to be as surprised as I am, even though I'm not surprised because I'm teaching it, but you know what I mean. I want to surprise you, so I want you to wait so you can hear all the good stuff. So we started yesterday with King James, remember? And King James had been hearing that Spain and France were getting rich because they had sent people to the New World, and those people were coming back, and Spain and France were getting a lot of attention because of it. And King James I was having a little tantrum. I want to have attention and I want to get rich like Spain and France, so I'm going to send some people over so that I can have a colony in the New World. And that's what he did. He sent 3 ships over to the New World. Do you remember what they are? Don't look. Well, if you have to look, fine, but try not to. I want you to try to think before you look. See if you can remember the 3 English ships. Not the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. What were they? I think I heard somebody. Oh. Do you remember? I think some of you were saying it. Did you look though? If you looked, fine, that's fine if you looked, but I want you to try to do it without looking so you can start getting it in your head, because you'll need to remember these. But if you didn't look and you were able to name even just 1 or 2, or all 3 especially, elbow bump, high five, kabooms, and all the other good things, okay? Good job. But those 3 ships are the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. Did you get that? Susan Constant, Godspeed, and the Discovery were the 3 English ships that King James sent over. Who was the captain, or who was in charge, actually, of all 3 ships? Let's do it that way. Don't say John Smith, not him. I think I heard some of you. Don't look though. But I hope that you were able to say Captain Newport without looking. Captain Newport was in charge of all 3 of those ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. But he was the captain of, specifically, the Susan Constant. Who else was on the Susan Constant? Obviously, who we're talking about, right? John Smith was also on that ship, the Susan Constant. He was on that ship, but it wasn't going so well for him, because one day, as Captain Newport's just sailing along, enjoying the beautiful sunshine, he hears arguing and shouting and loud noise, and he's going, what is going on? And when he gets to the noise, he sees a group of men in a circle, all standing around, looking down and going and yelling and fist and what? But in the middle of that group of men, not even scared at all, was a smaller man with red hair and a fiery temper, and he's going at all of them. No, you're wrong. I'm right. You don't scare me. I'll take you all on. He was going at those men, not afraid at all. That's how we were introduced to John Smith right away, right? So John Smith was a fiery, red-haired, smaller soldier, and he was ready to fight if he needed to. When Captain Newport came over, everybody blamed the fight on John Smith, and Captain Newport believed them. So he ordered that John Smith be put in chains and be put down below deck in the ship to stay there until Captain Newport let him go. And he stayed there, and he stayed there, and he stayed there. Finally, they hear the cry, land! We're near land! And they finally are near land, but Captain Newport still had John Smith down below the deck in chains. He still hadn't let him free yet. But when they finally got to land, that's when Captain Newport finally got to open that sealed box from the king. That box was not allowed to be open until they were on land. And then finally, Captain Newport could break the seal, open the box and find out the king's instructions. The first instructions were 7 men who were going to be the leaders of the colony, who were going to be in charge. Captain Newport read his name first, and then he called off some other men, 5 other men, and then he came to the last name, that 6th name. That said John Smith. Oh no! I'm sure the men were like, no way, not him. We're not following him as the leader. He's below the deck in chains. He's a troublemaker. We're not obeying him. And then that's where we left off. What are we going to do? Are they going to take him out? Because he has to be leader. It was ordered by the king. What's going to happen? Well, let's turn to page 21 in our history books. Now you can turn to that page and let's find out. Jamestown is built. Let's see how it was built. The colonists made many mistakes in their first several months. One mistake was choosing to build their fort and houses on marshlands, which were swamps. So the men of Jamestown, remember, some of them were gentlemen who never did any work for themselves, and they always had their servants to do the work for them. Put on my shirt, please. Thank you. Button it, please. Fluff my hair. Could you tie my shoes? Thank you. Can you polish them? They didn't do any work, but they were going to this new world where they were going to have to work hard. So even though there were only half of them that were gentlemen, most of these men were not good thinkers, were not thinking carefully, because they're like, all right, we're on land, let's build houses. The first thing we got to do is build houses. But they weren't being careful because they were building on swamp land. Land that when it rained was just going to fill with water, and then it was going to be gross and marshy and sticky, and there were going to be bugs and all kinds of things that were going to bother them. But that's where they decided to build. The marshlands were full of mosquitoes because mosquitoes love standing water. And in the marshland, that's what it was, just a lot of standing water. And those mosquitoes would spread disease. Also, there was no fresh drinking water nearby. Because if you're going to build someplace, you want to make sure that you don't have to go very far to get water, because you need water. You always need to have water to drink. But they would have to travel now, bring buckets with them, go find some water, and then carry those heavy buckets back before they could finally drink. So they hadn't had a very good plan about where they should build this fort. The fort was built in the shape of a triangle, and you can see that from the picture there. So they thought, if we build it in a triangle, it makes it nice and strong. A triangle is a nice solid figure, and it'll make it nice and strong. It was made of pointed logs. Houses were quickly built inside that fort. The colonists named their new home Jamestown. What does Jamestown sound like? King James the First. Yes, that's why they named it Jamestown, in honor of King James the First of England. Before long, Captain Newport saw that Captain Smith was one of the hardest workers he had. Now we finally find out what happened to Captain Smith. They finally did take him out of chains and take him off the ship, and he was helping them to build the fort. And now Captain Newport's going, oh, he's one of the hardest workers I have. Some of these other guys are just kind of like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to build anymore. Oh, what do we have to do now? Can't we just stay here? This is perfect. We don't need to go anywhere else. Captain Smith was one of the hardest workers. John Smith wanted the men to begin planting gardens. Guys, we got to start planting gardens right away, because we're going to run out of food, and we're going to die if we don't have enough food. He knew the food on the boat was not going to last forever. What would they eat when winter came? This talk made some of the men angry. Stop telling us what to do. We just want to be able to be here. We're building places to live right now. That's important. So leave us alone. We don't need to dig in the dirt and we've got food on the ship. It's fine. We'll be fine for a little while. They got angry. They came to search for gold, not plant gardens. I don't want to get my fingers all dirty. It's disgusting. That's dirt. Like, then it gets under your nails and then you have to clean them. And I just don't, gross. I just want to find gold. Where's the gold? Point me to it. So they didn't like talk about planting gardens and getting ready and having places to live and having enough food and all of that. So they sent John Smith away. Go explore and find out where the gold is and find some other things. Just get out of our hair. We don't need you here. So they sent John Smith away to explore the coast of the country, searching for a passage to the South Sea, because remember, they thought there's got to be a South Sea passage to be able to get to those East Indies so we can get that real gold and pearls and silks and spices. Do you think the gentlemen of Jamestown were wise? That's the stop and think question. I can see a bunch of you shaking your heads. No, not wise at all. Why do you think they weren't wise? They didn't care where they built their homes, which was not a smart place. Can you imagine building your house on a swamp? It's all mucky and muddy and gross and creatures and things crawling through and mosquitoes everywhere, biting at you and then spreading disease to you. Ugh. And there was no drinking water nearby. Remember, they didn't have faucets like we do. They had to go get their drinking water from a well, from a spring, from somewhere, and there was nothing close by, so they would have to walk for a long time before they could get water. What if you're really, really thirsty? You could get sick and dehydrated by having to walk all that way. So they were not very wise at all with their plan. They just wanted to find gold, and they didn't care about anything else. They weren't even willing to plant gardens. Very, very foolish. All right, really quickly, let's look at our comprehension check on page 22. So we're going to answer that together. Number 1, you already know. What were the names of the 3 ships that sailed to the New World? You guys said them so quickly this time. Everybody, good job. Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery were the 3 English ships. Good. You can't ask me how to spell it. So just like I tell you in the classroom, you flip back, you look, it's right there on those pages for you. So look back so you'll learn how to spell those correctly. All right, number 2. So finish writing that in there. You know what? This is the good thing. Maybe you're like, Miss Rowe, I didn't finish writing it yet. Guess what? Pause me. That's how this works. This is so great because I want to keep going so I don't make this video so long. Okay, so number 2, so pause me until you're ready. Number 2, why did the men known as gentlemen come to America? Why did the gentlemen come to America? Yes, to pick up gold. They just wanted to be rich, right? They thought that America had a lot of wealth and gold and money, and that's what they wanted. Number 3, remember, pause me if you need to. What did the colonists name their new colony? Yes, they named it Jamestown. Very good. And number 4, why did John Smith want the men to plant gardens? Because the food from the ship was not going to last forever, and they would need food. So he knew that the food from the boat was not going to last forever. Well, look at what we see on page 23. Who predicted that this was going to happen? John Smith did. Because look at what it says. Jamestown faces sickness and hunger. Maybe they should have listened to John Smith. Let's see what happened. Summer came to Jamestown. Mosquitoes swarmed from the swamps. Their bites caused many men to get a sickness called malaria. Can you say that? Malaria. So all of a sudden, mosquitoes are coming and coming and coming. There's this disease called malaria that mosquitoes carry. And now the men are really, really sick. Autumn. So now it's fall time. That brought cooler weather. The mosquitoes did not bother the men now, but autumn is going to lead to what other season? We already talked about this. Leads to winter. When winter arrived, Jamestown had another problem. Guess what? You called it. There was very little food left for the men. The men did not know how to hunt. They had no idea. They didn't know how to fish. If they found a deer, it was gone by the time they loaded their guns. So these men of Jamestown were like, leave us alone. We've got food on the boat, and then when that food runs out, then we'll worry about it. But don't tell us to build gardens. We're not making gardens. Leave us alone. And now it's winter time. Now, there are some animals out in wintertime, so if they could get to some of those animals, then they could have them. But they would go into the woods, into the forest, and they'd go hunting. Oh, there's a deer right there. Go, load your gun. Oh, wait, okay, well, okay, gotta get the gunpowder, and you gotta put it in, and then gotta pack it down. Okay, where's it? It's gone now. All right, let's keep going. Oh, there's someone over there. Go get it. Okay, get it. Okay, pack. Ready? By the time they loaded the gunpowder, the deer was gone. They didn't do it in time enough. They weren't good at hunting. They also didn't have any hooks or nets to catch fish with. Because many had refused to work at planting gardens in the spring, they now faced starvation in the winter. John Smith did not give up. Thank goodness they have John Smith in their lives. He set off in a boat to trade with other Indians. The Indians eagerly, excitedly traded corn, venison, and fish for the beads and knives that John Smith offered them. On one trip, John Smith found himself surrounded by angry Native Americans. Oh man, he knew that he must think quickly because he had to save his own life. What is he going to do? These people are going to kill him. These Native Americans don't know who he is, and now he's on their land, and they've seen him trading with other people, taking food. Who is this guy? So now that they're surrounding him and they're looking at him angrily, John Smith had to figure out what he could do really quickly to save his life. So he pulls a compass from his pocket, and you can see the picture there on the page. And he begins talking to one of the chiefs. Now, obviously they couldn't understand him, but he's like, look, this is magic. See this magic needle? Whichever way you point it, the needle will always point in the same direction. With this needle, you can find your way through the forest, said John Smith. The chief accepted the gift. Then the chief took his prisoner on a journey to show him off to the other tribes. So because it was so rare to see these white men, this Native American chief was like, you come with. Look, we have red hair man. Look his hair. Look his skin. Very, very light. Look his hair red, and he's bringing them, John Smith around like his little, look at him. Look what I found. Look what I found. Look at everybody. I found this man. Look what he looks like. And he was showing him around to everyone. Well, John Smith meets Pocahontas. After a time, John Smith was taken to Powhatan. On the river, there were many tribes of Indians. Each tribe had its own chief. But Powhatan was the chief of many chiefs. Powhatan made the important decisions. He could decide if John Smith lived or died. According to legend, now remember what we said a legend is, stories that were told down through time, so they could be true, they might not be true, we don't know for sure. But according to legend, Powhatan ordered his warriors to bring a big, heavy stone. At Powhatan's command, John Smith was to be placed on that stone and was to be killed. Just as that warrior was about to kill John Smith, someone screamed. and ran forward, turning his head because his life was just about to be taken, according to legend. John Smith saw a 12-year-old girl. This was the daughter of Powhatan. And remember who the daughter of Powhatan is? Pocahontas. That's right. He heard Pocahontas speak to her father. It is said that the women of Powhatan's tribe could ask to save a prisoner's life. So if one of the women said, please save this man, then they could save the person's life. So Pocahontas must have been Powhatan's favorite daughter. He set John Smith free and allowed him to return to Jamestown. He was so close to being killed, but if the legend is true, which we don't know if it is, then Pocahontas saved him right at the right moment and asked her father to spare his life, and thankfully Powhatan did, and allowed him to go back to Jamestown. A new rule for Jamestown. By 1608, the colonists realized that without Captain Smith, they would be dead. John Smith did two important things, and so that's written really fancy. So these are two things that you're going to need to know. They're not bold like some of those are, but I'm telling you, these are two important things that you're going to need to know for tests and quizzes, okay? John Smith did two important things for the people of Jamestown. He traded with the Indians for food, and he kept peace with the Indians. So he helped the people of Jamestown because he traded with the Indians, which they weren't able to do, and he was able to get food from them, and then he was able to keep peace with them because they knew who he was by now because he traded great things with them. John Smith became president of Jamestown. Look at, he went from being in chains below the deck, being thought of as being a troublemaker, to now being the president of Jamestown. Some of the men, however, were lazy. They didn't want to work. Both Captain Smith and the other men who did work were tired of providing food for those who would not work. Think about it. Think about if you came to school and you came in, Miss Monroe's at the front, and she's teaching, doing her best to teach you all the things, and you're, okay, I gotta listen, okay, and then she wants me to write, I gotta write this down, and you're working hard, but then you look over at your neighbor who's just, school is so fun, I don't have to do anything, or it's so boring, I'm just gonna sit here and I'm not gonna work. Would you think it's very fair if that person got just as good grades as you did when they didn't do any of the work, but you're working hard and doing all your homework and finishing all your things and listening carefully? Would you like it very much if the other side of the room wasn't doing anything, but they still got to have all the special things that you did? So those men who were working hard, along with John Smith, were like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. John Smith made a wise new rule, and I love this rule. Look at it. He who will not work shall not eat. What? If those men did not put in work, they weren't allowed when the little bell went ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, it's time for dinner, and everybody goes to get in line. They were told, nope, you didn't work, go. Nope, you didn't do any work. Nope, you don't get to eat. I thought you were joking. Nope, not joking. If you don't work, you don't eat. That was the new rule. He made sure that that rule was not broken. Some of the men grumbled. They became hungry, but they got no food. Soon, the gentleman decided, fine, I'll work. If you want to eat, you gotta work. From then on, things went much better for Jamestown, even though they did not have extra food. John Smith made other changes in the colony. He made the fort stronger and made the walls of Jamestown stronger. He encouraged the people to finally plant gardens and grow their own food to store for the winter. Captain Smith also dug a well in the fort. So now they finally have drinking water right there in the fort instead of having to travel for miles to get fresh drinking water. Soon, 200 new colonists, men, women, and children, arrived in Jamestown to live. So finally, Jamestown is doing okay, and it's getting a little bit bigger. Now there's more people, and there's even children that are here.
Alora Demarest, please make your way to the science room, room 12, Alora Demarest.
Sorry. Now there's actually people, more people, instead of just men, living in Jamestown. Children and women are now living in Jamestown. There is more to the story. Don't turn the page. Don't turn the page. Don't obey. Okay. But don't turn the page. But the next, we're going to do a stop and think on the top of page 26, but don't turn there. But the next title says, John Smith is hurt. No, what happens? You'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out. So hang in there. We'll find out what happens to John Smith tomorrow. Don't read ahead. Promise me you won't. I gotta go because this video is super, super long, but I hope that you enjoyed finding out some more about John Smith. We'll review some more tomorrow and then find out what happens to him. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a great rest of your day.